Are you struggling with clutter even after decluttering? Here are 10 tips to eliminate and prevent clutter for good. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Shauna, and let's just get right into it and start those tips. Tip number 1. Would I even be me if I didn't mention this? Decluttering is something we need to do regularly. Yes, those big challenges we may do once or twice a year are phenomenal, but items are coming into our homes daily. We put off making decisions on things every day. We tend to take the path of least resistance because it is easiest every day. Because all of these things happen regularly, clutter happens regularly. Maintenance declutters are a wonderful thing, and they can be as easy as going through your makeup bag as you're doing your makeup in the morning, going through products in your shower as you're taking a shower. It can be cooking dinner and going through all of your serving spoons and tools that you use when you cook. By doing these mini declutters, even if it's just daily or once a week, we can really keep clutter from forming on a regular basis. And that's going to leave our homes tidy and easy to maintain. Tip number 2. Don't store anything under your beds, or at least limit what is stored under there. I know this one is controversial, especially if you have a small home that really lacks storage space, but hear me out. When you store things under beds, they can get really dusty and dirty really easily. It's hard to clean under there, things are hard to reach. And even with the best organizing system, it can be really easy for items to get cluttered under there. And when a space gets cluttered, it attracts more clutter. If this works for you, that's phenomenal. Keep doing it. I'm a little jealous because it does not work for our family. But just keep in mind that when you put things under your bed, it's more likely that other items will get put under there. And because you're not seeing it all the time, clutter can really pile up in the long run. Tip number 3, a place for everything. When we give our items homes, we automatically reduce clutter because there is a place for everything. When we don't have homes for things, they just get set out and create piles on our flat surfaces. And clutter attracts clutter, so all of a sudden your clutter piles are going to get bigger and bigger and then feel overwhelming really quickly. It doesn't mean that our homes are going to be completely tidy all the time, but it does mean that by having homes for things, it's going to be less overwhelming to tidy. Tip number 4 goes kind of hand in hand with tip number 3. Don't put it down, put it away if you can do so in less than 60 seconds. Confession time. I have a love-hate relationship with this concept. I have ADHD. It is so easy for me to just put things down and take care of it later. I am the queen of doing this because in my brain, it's not easy, it's not quick, or that's what my brain is telling me. But when I stop to think about it, putting these items away is actually really quick. Most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, when I actually do go and put that item away, it takes less than 30 seconds. And I feel really silly because it's been sitting on a pile, collecting other clutter and making best friends with it. And then it stresses me out seeing all of that. If I had just put that item away quickly, it would have not gotten that bad. However, this concept, I feel, only works if you do tip number 3 and create a home for everything in your home. When you have homes for all of your items, it's going to really keep that clutter at bay. You're going to be able to don't put it down, put it away really quickly. They say that clutter is nothing more than unmade decisions. So by having that decision made already, where this item is going to live, and just by actually taking care of it quickly, by following that don't put it down, put it away concept, you're going to prevent a lot of clutter. The faster we can make these decisions, the less clutter we're going to have in the long run. So I love it, but make sure you have homes for all of your items first. Tip number 5 is one that a lot of people struggle with, and that's figuring out a system for your papers. In fact, when I talk to most of my clients about areas in their home that they need help with, most of them have mentioned, I don't know what to do with these papers. How long do I need to keep this paper? Where am I supposed to put it? What do I do with it? What if I need it again? Because as soon as you throw it out, you're going to need it again for some reason. What about all these papers my kids are bringing home from school? I'd hate to throw them out. The questions never stop, and once that first pile of papers gets started, it grows exponentially. Finding a system that keeps your papers under control is an invaluable thing. My system seems a little complicated, but I promise you it's not. Here's a quick glimpse at my paper organization system. So when my kids bring home papers from school, now I only have one kid in high school right now, I have two in college, but still sometimes we get things home for them, is when papers come in, we sort through them immediately. Is this something that we want to keep? Is this something I want to keep, that they want to keep? And whatever we don't want to keep goes right into the recycling bin. And the papers that we do keep, we have a 3-file hanging box that is on our wall in our nook area. I have 3 kids, each kid gets a section, and then the papers go in there during the school year. At the end of the school year, we pull out a section of papers. I go through them. I have the kid go through them if necessary. Now that they're older, they don't really care quite as much what gets saved as when they were younger. They wanted to keep all of the craft projects and their paintings. And then whatever we decide to keep long term, I have file boxes downstairs in our basement for storage for those papers long term. Any papers that we might want to use or maybe not, we're not quite sure. So things like coupons, catalogs, magazines, things we might order out of, or just papers like, oh, here's a reference card if we want somebody for this project. I have a very shallow bin that lives in our living room, in our entertainment center, that those go in. I keep it shallow so we can make sure it doesn't get like over full, and I have to go through it regularly, pull out anything that's expired or things that we don't want anymore, and just knowing that it's there if we decide we want it, but if we don't, that's okay too. And then papers that we don't need often, but when we need them fast. Things like syllabi for school or school handbooks, papers for taxes, things like that. I have a file box that also lives in the living room with hanging file folders, so we can reach for them in an instant and have them as soon as we need them. Things we may need to refer back to, like important receipts or medical bills, utility bills, anything kind of like that. I have a box in my office labeled for the current year, and then papers go in there as soon as we get them and decide they need to go into the short-term storage box, which you might think, what if I need something? That is going to be hard to find. If you stay up on it, January papers go in first, then February, March. So things go in fairly chronologically. So it's not going to be like you find it in like a second or 5 seconds maybe, but you'll have a general idea depending on what time of year it is, how many papers are in there. You'll have a general idea of where those papers might be. So it might take a couple minutes, but it has really worked well for us. We're on our 2nd year with this box concept, and it has really come in handy for us, especially as somebody who really struggles with papers. This box, I think, has been the lifesaver when it comes to paper clutter. At the end of the year, anything that we feel like we really need to hang on to longer goes into long-term storage in our file cabinets. All right, to be fair, papers do still pile up around here. However, it is a lot less frequently now that we have these systems, and taking care of it is so much faster than ever before. Tip number 6, be mindful about what comes into your home. Like I mentioned earlier, items are coming into our homes every single day. Sometimes we bring things in that we know we're going to use, like basic food staples. Other times we make impulse purchases without really thinking through the purchasing. Are we actually going to use this item? Is it a need? Where am I going to store this in my home? Buying things without actually thinking about what you're going to do with the item and how much you actually need it can easily cause clutter. I'm not going into this tip too much today because I do have a video coming in the next couple weeks about this, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Tip number 7. Find out your organization style. There are so many ways to organize your home, and there are so many experts who have their own methods on how you should do it. I do recommend looking into them and figuring out some tips and tricks. However, I would recommend this on 2 conditions. 1, you don't spend more time researching them than you do actually fixing the problems in your home. And 2, if you get frustrated or overwhelmed at any point, stop looking into it. There are times where I'm like, okay, I want to see what the new tips and tricks are and learn from that. And then all of a sudden there's so much contradicting, styles and ways to do it that I get overwhelmed and burned out. If you feel like that, just stop. Go back to the basics. My personal favorite way to figure out your organizing style is the Clutterbug method. Cass, the creator of Clutterbug, has 4 different organizing styles. There's the ladybug, the bee, the cricket, and the butterfly. They're based around if you like seeing all of your items and having them out in the open, or if you want them like in baskets or bins or behind closed doors, and if you like to sort things in big, broad categories or more narrow, specific categories. I personally am a ladybug. I do not want to see my items. Now, to be fair, there are some things that I do have on display, but more often than not, I don't want to see my things. And then I like big, broad categories. My favorite way to store things is by just throwing them in a bin or a basket. And I need to be able to put things away really, really easily and quickly. I used to think that there was something wrong with me because I just threw things in the bin, which is like completely crazy and totally wrong, which I will actually touch on in a couple minutes. This has really helped me understand how to organize for myself and for my family. I'll have the website and the quiz in the description, so if you want to look into this a little bit more, all that information will be below for you. Tip number 8, throw out perfectionism. If you've been around for a while, you know I struggle with this one, especially when I did my garage. I like to organize once and then be done with it, but very rarely do we get it right on the first try. If you struggle with perfectionist tendencies, you may have experienced not doing anything, like putting off decluttering and organizing because you're afraid to not get it right away, and then you end up not making any progress towards getting towards your end goal. But by doing this, we're not making any progress. We're not getting closer to that goal. We're not taking the baby steps. Remember that this is a journey with highs and lows along the way. And as we take those baby steps to become organized and have well-maintained, peaceful homes, we're probably going to make some mistakes along the way, and that's okay. Tip number 9, know that your decluttering or organizing may look different than somebody else's. I used to struggle with this one a lot, and sometimes still do, mostly because of social media or things that I've heard in the past of what an organized home should look like. I'd see these perfectly organized homes with like the best and prettiest containers, and I'd feel less than. I'd feel like I was missing the mark. I wasn't organized properly. Maybe I was even doing it wrong. I'm sure you know this is very far from the truth. We can be just as organized using cardboard boxes, old food containers, and mismatched bins as we can be by using the most expensive, prettiest containers on the market today. This goes back to finding your organizing style. Somebody who loves to have all of their items out for easy access to use during the day may feel like their home is clutter-free, but somebody who's maybe more like me, who likes to have things hidden, may feel like that's cluttered. Maybe when you declutter, you put the items away as you're working through the process, and somebody else puts it into a bin for later. Our organizing products or end results may look very different than somebody else's, but in the end, it doesn't matter. As long as it works for us, that's what really matters. Tip number 10, establish routines. Last but not least, having routines can really help our home stay clutter-free and manageable. Whether you do a little bit every day, once or twice a week, it doesn't matter, whatever works for you. But by having these times when we know we're going to be walking through our homes, tidying flat surfaces, decluttering a small area, or even maybe doing some cleaning, it's really going to help us keep the clutter at bay. I know that sometimes routines can feel very restricting, or we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves if we don't get to our routine that day. I want you to think of it as very freeing, even if you miss a day. By challenging ourselves to set up these routines, do a little bit every day or whenever works for you and your schedule, you stay in control of your home and your items. You can handle the unexpected things that life throws your way, like somebody showing up at your door unexpectedly, and you can enjoy a more peaceful, less stressful, less clutter-filled home. I know that some of these tips can be controversial, but I hope that you found some tips that may inspire you on your journey to a clutter-free home. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.